Got a good job playing in my town, and I like what I do and people I work with. I come to work every day and do the best I can, and then get home to the family. Maybe watch TV or go bowling with a buddy of mine, Steve Barnes. Well, on the day I'm telling you about, in just one moment of tragedy, and I'll have caught up with him. Ow! We've got a good safety man at our plant, and he's always after us about wearing eye protection. He says, and I guess he's right, that everyone who works in a shop or even visits a shop must wear some form of eye protection every minute of the day, and not just at certain times or only when your supervisor is looking. The way I see it, Steve Barnes found out that cheating on the eye safety rules is dangerous. It can cost you your eyesight, even your life. So instead of going home at the usual time, Steve Barnes is going to the hospital, and you're going along with him. Maybe by seeing what Steve has to go through, you'll learn a lesson, a priceless eye safety lesson for you and your family. Of course, the surgical floor of a hospital is closed to the public. But stick with me. I'll get you in. What you'll see is considered routine. That is, if you're an eye doctor or a surgeon. But if you're like me, well, suppose we take a look. Taking a piece of metal out of an eye that has been punctured isn't easy. Here the eye is being probed to try and locate the metal fragment. And a special magnet is applied to the eye so that, with luck and as little surgery as possible, they can pull the metal right out. By the way, Steve hasn't been given any anesthetic at all up to now. The surgeon uses the probe and magnet time and time again, but the piece of metal is off to one side from where it punctured the eye. If you watch closely, you can actually see the eye bulging when the magnet is directly over the piece of metal. No luck. My friend Steve is in trouble. Only surgery can save the eye. Now Steve is given a local anesthetic and the surgery gets underway. First, an incision is made with a surgical knife. As the operation continues, the incision has to be enlarged with surgical scissors. Keep in mind that Steve will be conscious throughout the entire operation. Sutures, commonly called stitches, are pre-placed so that the incision can be closed immediately once the surgery is completed. As you watch this operation and marvel at the skill and steady hands of the surgeon, I hope you'll keep one thing in mind. None of this would have been necessary if Steve Barnes had remembered to wear eye protection every moment on the job. The surgeon again probes for the metal. The search goes on, skillfully, patiently, without let-up, until, now what's the tip of that magnet? There. There it is. They've got it. In a way, Steve is lucky, if you can call this lucky. If Steve had glass in his eye, or wood, or aluminum, or any other non-magnetic material, A magnet would have been useless. Quickly, to guard against infection, the eye is stitched. Steve's ordeal is almost over. Only the long wait remains. The wait until the doctor tells him if his eyesight will be as good as before. Steve told me later that when he walked out of the hospital, this old world sure looked good to him. The sky, the town, the people in the streets, especially his wife and kid. Well, nothing had ever looked so good before. For the first time in his life, he really understood how precious his eyesight was. Steve said to me later, it was a little like being sentenced and then reprieved at the 11th hour. There's a big lesson to be learned from Steve's experience, and it's this. Wear your eye protection on the job, from the time you enter the shop till the time you punch out. And don't tell your safety man or supervisor that there isn't a proper type of eye protection for you. Here are some of the different kinds of eye and face protection, all made to rigid safety standards. Any of these can save your sight and means of making a living. Drill press operators, no matter the size or type of their machine, should wear safety glasses to protect against flying metal fragments and broken drill bits. Shops have many types of grinders. They not only spin off tiny metal particles and sparks, but when the wheel shatters, the fragments can be lethal. If you're grinding, at the very least, wear goggles. And with large grinders, you should use a face shield over your basic eye protection. And be sure everyone working near you is also protected. Wood chips and sawdust can be just as painful and damaging as pieces of metal if they get in your eye. To prevent eye injuries around power saws and other carpentry jobs, be sure to wear the proper eye protection. Even a simple task like power stapling can be dangerous. Work-saving tools make life easier, but they also can cause loss of sight. Every industrial plant has hazards. It doesn't matter what your job is or what kind of machine tools you work with, lathes, milling machines, punch presses. You need protection against accidents which can damage or destroy eyesight. Remember what happened to Steve Barnes. His eyesight was injured when he stopped to talk with a coworker. If you're spraying, it's smart to guard your lungs against toxic and potentially harmful sprays, and also against the possibility that chemical spray will get into your eyes, and that means wearing eye protection. Getting your eyes splashed with acids or other chemicals can cause you lots of pain and grief. If you work near dip tanks, or where there is a danger from chemicals or hot liquids, use proper protective gear, including a face shield over your regular eye protection. Near furnaces and foundry operations, the hazards to eyesight are especially serious. Be sure to wear not only goggles to guard against molten metal, sparks, and intense light, but also a face shield and safety clothing. And keep an eye on the men around you. Be sure they do the same. Welders and burners and those who work near them need specially tinted safety glasses to protect their eyes from dangerous radiation and impact. And a face shield helps guard your face from burns. Here are just a few of the many thousands of members of the Wise Owl Club of America. Every member of this exclusive club has saved his or her sight by wearing eye protection at work. The more than 65,000 Wise Owl members are living proof that safety eyewear will do the job if it is worn. If your eyesight is endangered on the job, will you become a Wise Owl Club member? Or will you be one of those others, one of the thousands who have been partially or completely blinded because they cheated on the eye safety rules? You can bet on one thing. Steve Barnes will never again gamble with his eyesight. No amount of compensation can pay for the suffering, the worry about ever being able to see again. As for Steve's family, they shared his anguish and felt the financial pinch during the many weeks he was away from work. About 1,000 industrial employees suffer some degree of eye injury every working day, many of them serious. It can't always be the other guy who gets hurt. If you keep tempting fate, it can be your number that comes up next. If Steve could talk to each of you, He'd say that the responsibility for keeping your eye protection on rests with you. That if you try and beat the eye safety rules, you're playing a dangerous game. If you've been wearing eye protection only when you feel like it, or only when your safety supervisor or foreman is looking over your shoulder, you're fooling nobody but yourself. Steve can tell you, when it comes to eye safety, it's still up to you.